Salutations gamers, I'm the OgichiGame, and welcome back to the animation tutorial series. Now, we're going to take a break for a minute from the animation, the big one that we're working on, the big project, to take a step back and talk about a few things that have been bothering people. Now, I get a fair bit of comments on my tutorial videos asking, hey, how do I do this, how do I do that? And I decided I was just going to do a bunch of them all in one video. So, without further ado, here is our good friend Rainbow Dash here to show us how we're going to do, how we're going to go about doing how we would go about doing flight animation. So, let's take a look at these wings. Actually, wait, before we do that, let's talk about blinking, which is something that somebody had a question about. And we can get through that very quickly. So, if you go into the eye layer, you should know that eyes are done through masking. So you can see here's the eye layer here, and we have an outline, which is this black bit. We have the lashes, which are here. We have the pupil, which contains the black as well as the shine for the pupil. The secondary eye color, and the eye whites, which are the base. They are the base layer for our mask. You should know what a mask is. I've discussed it several times in the tutorials, but just to give you a quick overview once again, in case you forgot, with a mask you have essentially you have a layer which is going to act as the base, and anything which is being masked will not appear outside of whatever that base is. So you see we have the eye white, and the pupil, or rather the eye color, let's show that. Yeah, so the eye color actually extends outside of the mask, but because it's being masked, it doesn't appear outside of it. So we do the same, so we use this mask to our advantage for, blinking. Now, to do blinking properly, what you need to do, okay, we're just going to follow Rainbow Dash. So, to do blinking properly, you only really need a few keyframes, not many at all. Very simple. So, in fact, this one only contains about 4 keyframes. Okay? So, you have the lid, which is just the same color as the base color of your character, as you can see here. And it follows the outline. Now, the first frame, we go to the first frame here, we are completely open. Then we go to this frame, and at this frame, it's going to be half shut because blinking goes by very quickly. It's really just fractions of a second. Now, you could extend the blinking or shorten the blinking. You could have it so that the eye closes and opens immediately, so it's only like 2 frames really, but for the purposes of this, so you have, and of course you could also do a slow blink where the eye goes slowly down and up, or you would just extend this whole process out. But anyway, so for this, all we did is we went to for the lid, we just brought it down like so to the halfway mark about. And then we had to do, as you can see with the outline and the lashes, they have to follow with that. So we go to the outline, and we brought down all those points as well. We brought all those points down to the halfway mark as well, along with the lid, and kept it all together so it looks like it's half shut. And then with the lashes, we simply brought them down like so, with that. Then, for completely closed, we had the outline. Here, if I shut the lid, you'll see the outline is following the very bottom of the eye. And then we just cover it over. We just cover the whole thing over with the lid. And then the lashes also follow along on the outside of the outline. Always on the outside like that. Now, we could technically, I guess, put it on the inside if we wanted, but... And then we have here, this last frame, which is the cycle frame, is where it is half open. and then it cycles back to the first frame where it is fully open again. Now, you don't have to cycle the frames. Now, in case if you don't know how to cycle a frame, all you have to do is cycle the last couple of frames, hit cycle, and then you can cycle it back to whatever frame you want it to be cycled back to, or you could do it relatively back this many frames, which would take it all the way back to 1. And all that does is repeat the animation. So, basically, she keeps her eyes open for about 2 seconds, and then begins to shut them at the second, and then closes them, opens them back up, and continues. And so about every 2 seconds, it cycles and does a blink. And we did the same thing for this side. So, as you'll see, she's blinking, blink, and blink, and blink. Now, you're probably wondering what all that bouncing is about. Now we're going to go, which I'm going to explain now. The bouncing is part of the flight animation. So, let's go to our wings. So, for the wing animation, we have a bunch of different switch layers I used. Instead, because, well, the wings kind of change the way they look every single time that they kind of move. Now, if you think that this wing animation may be a little too long, or maybe too long or too short or whatever, you can always extend it or shorten it however you need to for your purposes. It's just a matter of adding layers or taking layers away. Simple as that. But anyway, so, as you can see here on the first frame, we have the wings open, which I have labeled as OP. Then I've labeled the rest of it as motion 1, motion 2. So for the animation of the wings flapping, when the wings flap downwards, it takes less time for the wings to flap down, and it takes more time for them to come up. So there's more frames of the wings coming up than there is coming down. And make sure that you have that. No matter how you extend it or shorten it as you want, make sure that the animation of the wings coming back up takes longer than the wings flapping downwards. And the reason for that is, crap, I can't remember. Dagnabbit. There is a very good reason for it. It has something to do with the Oh, right. There's more. Something about resistance, I believe. You have to keep resistances and stuff like that in mind. Just like, if I took the example of a pendulum in a clock, you should know that the clock will take more time to rise than it will to swing down. So as a pendulum swings, it'll swing quickly, and then as it starts to go up, it will lose momentum. So the flapping of the wings has more momentum going down than it does coming back up. So it takes more time for the wings to go into their open state again than it does for them to flap downwards. And that's the purpose behind that. There we go. Okay, so we have the wings open, then we have one frame of the wing going down, a second frame, and that's it. There's just 2 frames for the wings flapping. Hold on. There we go. 2 frames of the wings flapping. Now, if you're wondering what those lines are, these are very important. Now, I haven't discussed this yet in the animation tutorials, and I think it's a good time to start. These are basically speed lines or something. You use lines like this when you're trying to emphasize motion. So when you want to say, okay, well this thing is obviously moving very quick, only 2 frames of flapping, right? So we're going to add these lines to say, okay, well it's moving very, very fast. As you can see, it's moving very, very fast, like so. Then immediately preceding that, we have it coming back up. So the wings kind of stall a little bit, they start to move up a little bit more, a bit more, open, and pop. Like so. And then right here, we cycle it. So there's 2 frames of the wings open, and then the flap goes back again. Like so. And so now in the end you have something kind of like that. Oh, right, and the bobbing. Now, something else that you're going to want to do is you don't want the character to be completely stationary. It looks very unnatural for them to be flapping their wings and be stationary. So, what you do is you go into your overall layer, and you have your layer transform layer tool. And so as you can see here on frame 1, we have it at this level. Then the 2 frames of the wings flapping, boop, boop, like so, it moves upwards. Then as the wings, because obviously as you're flapping downwards, you're creating momentum with the wings to lift you up. But when the wings are coming back up like so, you're not pushing downwards, you're not pushing air force downwards, so you're going to fall down a little. And so then the wings pop open. And as the wings pop open, Rainbow Dash falls back down a little bit. Like so. And then it bobs again. And it cycles back through that like so. And you can adjust the bobbing as you want, but make sure that to make it look realistic, you want it so that when they are flapping their wings, they move upwards, and then as the wings are coming back up, like so, they move downwards with the motion of the wings coming down. Then they flap up and down, up and down, up and down. And in the end, you should get something that looks a little bit like this. Oh, and I forgot to mention one last little detail. The back wing, you don't have to do hardly much of anything. Since it's not really in frame much, we have the wing just disappear, and then pop back. Like so. That's all it is. A frame of it open, a frame of it gone, all the way through, and then pop. It cycles back to it being open again. And that's all that is. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's move on to magic auras. This is another thing that people have asked me about. Now, magic auras are actually rather simple, despite what you might think. So, first let's go into Twilight here, who's going to help us, and here we have the magic. So, the magic in My Little Pony has 2 parts to it. It has a base and it has a part sort of in the center of it, or on top of it, or whatever you want to say. So, as you can see here, we have this outer part, which we call the base, and this inner part, which I'm calling the top. So, all you have to do is, when you're in the layer, you'll notice all these points. Just create a few frames, and make sure that you are... What are these called again? No, that's not right, sorry. Nope, I can't remember what they're called. Well, anyway, Anime Studio automatically has it so that will automatically add frames in between, even though you don't have keyframes. In Flash, you have to tell it to do that, I believe. In Flash, you won't have this automatic motion. You see, in Flash, you would either have to create all these frames in between yourself, or you can select it to move through. I can't remember the exact name of it. Dagnabbit. I'll try if I can find it. I'll put it on screen what the name of it is. But anyway, so you have these keyframes. So you have its stationary keyframe, then you have a frame where it's halfway there, and then a frame where it's all the way there, like so. See? So what you have? So you can see these lines, these squiggly lines. It moves up, and then you would copy this key, move it here. So as you can see, it goes, so it starts here, moves upwards, moves downwards, then moves downwards in a cycle, and continues endlessly like that. Also, this is actually not a copy of this frame. This frame is a copy of the frame which takes place immediately before it. In case you're wondering how that's done, you would basically just copy these frames right here. You would put them here. Like, oh crap, nope, sorry. You would copy those frames and put them like here. Then you would select the frame, then you would add a keyframe here, select the points, set them to cycle, and then delete those frames. So then it's always in motion. And you would do the exact same thing for the top. However, now, you can do it to where the motion of both the top and the bottom are exactly the same. However, I would recommend, the way that I do it and the way that I would recommend doing it, is have it so that the motion in the center and the motion on the outside is different. The motion on the inside is faster than the motion on the outside since this is bigger. So as you can see here, it takes 31 frames before it cycles, whereas with the base, takes 48 frames before it cycles. And that gives you an effect, something like this, you can see here. Like so. Now, if you're wondering what that weird glowing in the background is, something that you can do to try to affect your environment, to show, to highlight your effect, is to simply have like a glow. So, a glow with the exact same color of the aura, which I have right here, this frame. Very simple. All you have is a basic circle, which has a gradient effect, radial, allow transparency, with a somewhat transparent color base, and then a completely transparent color as the outer ring of it. And then you get something that looks kind of like this. And then all you have to do is take your transform layer tool, and through a few keyframes you expand it, and then shrink it. And then cycle that animation so it just expands and shrinks, expands and shrinks. Now, so in the end, what you should have is something that looks similar to this. Okay. Now, something else that you could do to make this even better is you could add shadows to the character to really emphasize the glowing. And the way that we would do that is sort of a reverse animation to the glow. So, obviously the shadows would be on the outer part of the body, and as the light expands, the shadows would contract away, and then as the light dims, the shadows would come back and become more prevalent, and then it would cycle at the same rate as the glowing light. Now, I'm not going to actually show you what the shadows would look like, because I'm afraid I don't have the time right now to go through all that. It would take a fair while to do. And I'm a little pressed for time, I'm afraid. But, yeah, also, just keep in mind things like Rainbow Dash as well as Twilight. Obviously, you would probably want Twilight blinking at the very least. And with Rainbow Dash, just this animation of her bobbing, with the bobbing and blinking, with the wing animation going, is a little bit stale, a little bit just kind of stilted. So something that you would obviously want to do is probably have her hair kind of either maybe blowing a little in the wind or being affected by the wings. You know, have a bit of motion in the hair, a bit of motion in the tail, have her arms move maybe slightly. Stuff like that, just to give it more motion to the character. Okay? Good. So obviously, you know, this is a base for a flying character. Basically, it's just a base for a flying character. So you would want to add some motion to it, like wherever the wind is coming. Maybe the wind is blowing the tail under her legs a little bit, blowing her hair a little bit this way, giving a little bit of motion. Maybe have her legs move or twitch every now and again, just to give it more give it more life. Give the animation more life. Anyway, besides all that, I hope this was informative. Oh, right, there was one last thing I wanted to mention. A lot of people, I don't know why, but I get frequent comments asking about doing an Equestria's Girl tutorial. Now, I don't really plan on doing anything related to the Equestria Girls, but this is what I will tell you. Now, the Equestria Girls have once again, they also have a simplistic sort of art style to them, actually, in my opinion, probably even more simplistic than the My Little Pony art style, in terms of the way the body is. But to do the Equestria Girls, you would essentially just apply all the same logic that you would to the ponies to them. Only, well, obviously not the exact same logic, because ponies move differently than people do, but you do still apply the same logic. You create the bases the way you would create these bases, only you would do it, with the Equestria Girls and stuff like that. Now, I could create all the bases for the Equestria Girls, but I don't really ever plan on doing an animation with them. They don't really interest me much. I was not a big fan of that movie. And I'm not a fan of the way their design is. If I ever do something with the main six or any of those other characters in a human form, I'll create an original sort of human base for it. But again, yes, so you would still apply all the same basic logic. There's no difference in creating a pony to really creating a human, except for, well, they just look a bit differently. Just, sketch out the different sides on paper if you need to, scan it in, and then just create the base as you would the pony bases. And that's about all you have to do. And then you can animate it as you see fit. Anyway, so I think that's everything. If you have any questions, comments, or anything, please leave them in the description below. Otherwise, I will see all of you in the next video. Bye-bye!